Hello everyone, and welcome to Earth Archives. If you often feel like certain content hits something deep inside you, maybe this channel didn't appear in your life by accident. If you'd like, you can subscribe, give it a like, or share it with someone you think might also be struggling. No need to decide right now, just listen first. I want to ask you a question that many people don't really dare to face. Why is it that some people clearly know they should let go, rationally, they know they should have left long ago, and yet they simply cannot do it?
Because most people think not letting go is an emotional problem. But from the perspective of Carl Jung, it's actually an identity problem. You think you're mourning a relationship, a job, or a former version of yourself. But in reality, you're not grieving the loss of someone. You're grieving the loss of the self that could only exist through that person, that role, that particular state of being. Jung once expressed a harsh but deeply truthful idea. Some people live as if they are continuously wounding themselves, because they keep clinging to versions of themselves that have already died. They maintain relationships long past expiration, remain loyal to jobs that have drained all vitality from them, hoard objects untouched for years, and repeatedly chew on old resentments as if they happened yesterday.
But people like that often look loving, responsible, even loyal from the outside, don't they?
And that's precisely where it becomes dangerous. Because beneath the surface, what they're loyal to is not a value. It's an invisible prison constructed by their own psyche. Jung believed that the inability to let go of the past is not a noble emotional trait. It is a symptom of blocked psychic energy. He described this condition as libidinal fixation, a freezing of psychological energy. The psychic energy that should flow toward the present and future becomes immobilized in past people, situations, or objects. And what happens then? The vitality of the soul begins to stagnate. Its capacity for transformation diminishes. The person starts living like a psychological ghost. They no longer truly inhabit the present. They wander among dead memories, dead places, and dead identities.
Calling someone a ghost sounds a little frightening.
Jung would argue it's not merely a metaphor, it's a clinical observation. Those who cannot detach did not merely have a relationship. They became that relationship. They didn't just work at a company. They fused their entire sense of self to that social role. For such individuals, letting go of the external object feels equivalent to internal death.
So it's not that they don't want to let go, they simply can't afford to?
Exactly. Because this attachment arises from an inner void that was never truly filled. They never developed a differentiated, autonomous self. Their I is essentially a sum of roles, functions, and masks. When those identifications are threatened, existential panic erupts. If that job disappears, who am I? If that relationship ends, what remains of me? If that identity dissolves, what is left?
This sounds like it might be connected to childhood.
Very much so. Jung pointed out that such individuals often remain psychologically fixed in a state he referred to as participation mystique, a primitive condition in which the self and the world are not yet differentiated. Subject and object lack clear boundaries. An infant lives this way, but the problem arises when the body grows up and the psyche does not complete the process of separation. Such a person remains emotionally fused with what they possess, what they do, whom they love, or whom they hate. Losing any external object feels identical to self-annihilation.
No wonder so many people stay, even when they're miserable.
Because at an unconscious level, they equate growth with death. Facing the unknown void feels more terrifying than staying in familiar suffering. This is not laziness. It's not a lack of ambition. It's structural fear. What we're examining today is that invisible psychological prison. People cannot escape the past not because they are weak, but because their psychic energy is frozen. Attachment is not merely an emotional habit. It is an unconscious defense against inner emptiness. As long as you cling to an old self, you prevent the emergence of a new one.
So if someone listening right now finds a sentence surfacing in their mind, "I just need time," what does that mean?
Usually, that's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It disguises itself as hope, but in reality, it's identity fusion. It's not that you can't let go of that person, that job, or that trauma. It's that your sense of self has already been constructed around it. That job became the definition of your worth. That relationship became the structure holding you up. That trauma became the core of your psychological organization. So letting go no longer feels like a transition. It feels like a death.
So what's truly frightening isn't the loss, but the emptiness that follows?
Exactly. Because that void forces you to confront the question you've been avoiding. If I'm no longer these things, then who am I? And that blank space is precisely where real transformation begins. Jung said that the void is not a curse, but the womb of the psyche. But the prerequisite is that you must allow the old to die, roles, relationships, traumas, even the beliefs that were meant to protect you.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is difficult, but not impossible. Jung offered a path, not through repression, but through reclaiming energy. The first step is to see clearly what you have projected into your attachment. Ask yourself, if I let this go, what do I believe I will lose? You'll often find that it's not the person, it's the feeling of being loved, needed, or affirmed. The second step is active imagination. Let the unconscious speak. Enter into dialogue with the object of your attachment. When the symbol is heard, it no longer controls you from the shadows. The third step is to turn letting go into a ritual, because the psyche needs endings and transitions. The fourth and most crucial step is to consciously rebuild your inner structure, gradually reclaiming the parts of yourself you had outsourced.
And what if someone tries everything and still can't do it?
Then we have to be honest. Some attachments are not choices, they are trauma. When certain ruptures are too vast, the psyche can freeze entirely. That's not something willpower can solve. It needs to be truly seen and integrated. Seeking help isn't weakness. It's a sign that you're ready to stop merely surviving and begin truly living.
Earlier you mentioned that some people aren't unwilling to let go, they're being held by some kind of force, and they may not even know what it is. What exactly is this force?
That's what Jung called the shadow. When people hear shadow, they often assume it means something evil or negative. But in analytical psychology, the shadow refers to the parts of ourselves we repress, deny, or refuse to acknowledge, yet which continue to influence our choices from the unconscious. When it comes to not being able to let go, the shadow often hides a harsh truth that's rarely spoken. We don't cling because of love. We cling because letting go would force certain unbearable realities to surface.
For example,
admitting that you spent 10 years of your life on a relationship that had no future, or admitting that the job never truly gave you value. It only kept you from confronting your inner emptiness, or admitting that if you really moved forward, you would no longer have an excuse to blame your past for the disappointments of your life. These truths threaten the ego at a structural level, so the shadow steps in to protect you. It keeps you stuck, repeating, circling in place. Because as long as you remain trapped in the old story, you don't have to take responsibility for new choices.
so pain can actually become a form of security?
Yes, and that's a fact many people don't want to admit. Pain can become an identity. Trauma can become a shield. The past can become a legitimate reason for stagnation. As long as I am still wounded, I don't have to take risks. As long as I am still waiting, I don't have to act. As long as I am still grieving, I don't have to truly live. These are the hidden gains the shadow provides. And until those gains are made conscious, letting go will remain nothing more than words.
How can someone tell whether they're being held by the shadow?
No. And this is where we must be careful. Not all attachment is simply psychological defense or shadow dynamics. In some cases, clinging itself is a symptom of trauma. When someone has endured an overwhelming rupture, a sudden death, abandonment, prolonged abuse, the total collapse of trust, the psyche does something protective. It seals off that moment, forming a highly charged psychological complex. That complex does not dissolve automatically with time. It continues to operate in the unconscious, almost like an autonomous system within the personality.
So on the surface, a person may appear to be moving forward, but internally they're still frozen in that moment?
Exactly. Your chronological life continues, but a part of you remains stuck at the moment the trauma occurred. Still waiting, still afraid, still on guard. That's why some people, even after 10 or 20 years, experience the pain as if it happened yesterday. It's not that they refuse to let go. It's that the part of them that was split off was never brought back.
In that case, can someone truly resolve this on their own?
Sometimes, no. And acknowledging that is itself a mark of psychological maturity. Traumatic complexes are highly defensive. They often disguise themselves as personality traits, values, even life philosophies. This is just who I am. I've never trusted people. I can't detach from the past. But beneath those narratives lie unspoken pain, unprocessed fear, and fragments of the psyche still waiting to be seen and acknowledged. That's why Carl Jung described psychotherapy as a container, a protected space in which the unconscious can safely emerge, be heard, and be integrated.
So healing isn't about going back to who you were?
No, healing is never a return to the previous state. It's a rebirth into greater wholeness. It's not about forgetting trauma, but no longer being defined by it. Not about denying the past, but no longer living inside it. When the frozen parts are gradually brought back into the present, psychic energy begins to flow again. And that's when a person truly comes back to life.
If someone listening realizes that no matter how hard they try, they can't move forward, what is most important for them right now?
The most important thing is to stop blaming themselves. Not being able to let go does not mean you failed. It may simply mean you've reached a place that requires tenderness rather than force. If you feel trapped in the past, ask yourself honestly, am I clinging or am I asking for help? If the answer is the latter, allow yourself to seek support. That is not weakness. It is evidence that you are ready to do more than merely survive. You are ready to truly live.
Finally, if you could leave the audience with just one sentence, what would it be?
Your suffering is not proof that you are too nostalgic. It is a sign that you have not yet fully claimed yourself. Letting go is not betraying the past. It is taking your life back from it.
If something in this conversation resonated with you, feel free to share your story in the comments. Your experience may be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. And if this kind of content has been helpful, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like, and sharing it with someone who may also be struggling. Next time, we'll continue unlocking those psychological cages, layer by layer.